Good evening, YouTube. This is Kaylin Stern coming at you with my regular Sunday night dinner. I just pulled up the chat on my tablet so it's easier to see. What I have here is something that I don't know if I've ever seen anyone show on YouTube, but I decided to go ahead and grab one. The site had it on sale, and this is an experimental long-range patrol ration from 1995. The date code is stamped into the bag, but not very deep. And this has the peelable seal as indicated here. This is a paper label that was affixed to here. There's nothing on this bag whatsoever underneath the paper label. In fact, this can come off. Nothing on that side. Nothing on this side. So the other brown bag Amories did not have this peelable seal like this one does. They had just a little slit cut into the top, and you're supposed to tear that. Rip it down the center, but that was not always possible. So I'm sure the soldier in the field just simply cut it. I am going to go ahead and attempt this peelable seal. I'm going to keep this label aside. Very, very easy to open. The MCW bags are about as thick as these. Long-range patrol rations include a freeze-dried main. So first off the top, 2 Lipton iced tea mixes. They seem to be pretty vacuum sealed and stuck together. And you can just separate them like this. This is the cookie bar chocolate covered. Very hard to see this black writing on this brown wrapping. Here we have another bar in a silver wrapper. It just says chocolate on there. It feels like it might be kind of like an energy bar. Here is an accessory pack. I'll put that on top of my mug for the moment. We do have the brown spoon. And you would need a long spoon to get into the main. And then here is another pouch with a label that was just glued on. This candy vanilla caramel scent pack, which is the precursor to Warnick, I believe. And then the last item in the bag is something reminiscent of the older Mountain House style packaging for the MCW. This is the beef teriyaki. And it appears it may have lost a little bit of its vacuum seal, or it just got crushed. There's a tear notch on the accessory pack. In here we have some darkened peppermint gum. The red packet Taster's Choice. If this has gone south, I have a backup plan for that. Got the standard matches with white tips. One. And 2 rear rolls. Got a packet of Domino sugar. I know that's going to be good. We have an iodized salt and a packet of creamer. In here we got Tamara, Danielle, Phoenix, Spicy Tuna Rolls, Curious Pete, Mike Crusher, Brian. Thanks for dropping in. I do these live ration reviews every Sunday. Before I open anything else, I am going to cut open this pouch, because being that these are freeze dried, they take a fair amount of time to reconstitute. I'm putting all of the trash into the ration bag. Now they did double wrap this one. And the inner bag is not sealed, but what I can do, I can pull it out of here, at least somewhat. So you can get a look at the food inside. Now I'm going to put my my mug up here to kind of prop it up. MCW is meal cold weather, for those that are not aware of that. Actually, before I do that, let's look at this red packet Taster's Choice. These are notorious for going bad. I did have one of these one time that was absolutely perfect. It was in a corned beef hash MRE. Nope, this one has gone south. Here, I'll just grab a light. It should look brown and fine powder. Nope. This red packet Taster's Choice is no good. So that's going into the bag. As I said, I have a backup plan for that. I'm going to have a coffee instant type 2. That's a freeze-dried coffee, so it looks more like Looks more like little chunks. And La Soul Royal Bloodline, Cliff Brett. And Rational Morality, Booger Butt, things, there's some new names I haven't seen before. This creamer looks absolutely perfect. I did a tiny, tiny little taste test on my pinky finger. That's going in there. Domino's sugar is going in. I know that's going to be good, because sugar, when it's properly stored and it's not compromised, it is one of those foods that can last decades. So now what I'm going to do, I'll get all these things aside that I'm not using. And I'm going to go into the kitchen. I have a kettle. I will get hot water for this. And then I have a clipper that I will put on here after I put the hot water in and stir that up. I'll be right back. I took the kettle back into the kitchen, and the burner is still on the stove, so I can keep that water boiling. Okay, now that I got that started, let's see, there is Korean name. I am not able to read that. I apologize. I'm checking out these tea packets. Trying to figure out if one of these will be more mixable. I think this one here might be the better of the two. It says Class A tea. Natural lemon. It's still a bit clumped up. Aussie is here. Good day. That will take a fair amount of time to dissolve. So I want to go ahead and get this one going. I'm just going to leave that in my drinking jar. I will put this one aside. And this was packed in 1995. I have a feeling that these caramels might not have made it, but we'll find out. They feel greasy. There's a greasy feeling on the inside. But this is what they look like. They're called milk caramels. I'm sure back in the day when this was fresh, these would have been a big hit. They appear to have been melted a bit, especially on the end. So that one may not have survived. I don't know if I will be able to open that. As cookie bar chocolate covered. These were also in the standard brown bag US MREs. And I think they were even in some of the MCIs, or Meal Combat Individual. Sometimes they were also known as the C rations or C rats. Sometimes these held up, sometimes not. It smells kind of funky. It smells old, so it may not have survived. And then this just says chocolate, but the feel of it makes me think it was more like an energy bar. It actually, inside of that wrapper, even though it's thinner, smells a little bit better than cookie bar. Joel is here. Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, beef stew, I don't think will ever get taken out of the lineup. I'm going to give my tea another stir, and then I am going to bring the kettle back in, because I want to put the water in here for the coffee, and I'm going to check on this to see if it needs more water. The main thing you want to be sure of when you're doing these freeze-dried ones is you try to scoop up all the way on the bottom and in the corners so you avoid any dry bits. Sometimes adding water a little bit of it at a time also helps to retain its heat, especially if you have to do this outside in the cold. But this is absorbing the water big time. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to take the kettle back into the kitchen. I'm done with that. The Carlos Perry is here. Neil is here. Thanks for dropping in. You're looking at an experimental long-range patrol from 1995, menu 1. The bag has nothing on it at all. This is the side where the label was. This is the other side. It had the peelable seal that did not start on the regular MREs or long range patrol tan bags until they came along. The brown bag MREs just had a little slit cut in the top that you had to use, either just cut it with a knife, and a lot of soldiers would have a knife on them anyway, so they would just cut it rather than trying to peel that thick plastic open and ended up flaying it right down the middle and losing everything. Yeah, that's okay, to Carlos. I was still in prep mode. I think this tea has pretty much dissolved. I'm not feeling any chunks on the bottom. The coffee that was original was the red packet Taster's Choice, and that had already gone south. The creamer mixed in very well. Go ahead and bring the cup back to the center. So I have a Coffee Instant Type 2 that I pulled from my stash. The creamer and the sugar are original to this ration. I'm using my Tupperware tray because these freeze-dried entrees will give you a whole lot of food. Again, these are caramels. They feel a bit greasy on the outside, so I think they have already gone south. This end, it's like it's melted. I can open this end. Now look at that grease on my thumb. the oil. Ugh. It does not smell good. So I'm afraid this is going into the trash. Those caramels did not survive. This is the underside of the cookie bar, the chocolate covered cookie bar. It's very like a waxy, this is what it looks like on the inside. And then this bar, it does smell like old cocoa. The package just said chocolate. And this is what it looks like on the inside. I'm guessing this is like a protein bar. Now, I think let's go ahead. I think it's time to reveal this beef teriyaki. I'm going to give it one more stir with my long teaspoon. Sorry, my tray is sliding. It actually came out very clean out of there. It actually smells like teriyaki. It doesn't smell like anything old. I probably won't be able to get all the goodies out of here, but I get what I can. Waffles is here. $19.95 experimental long range patrol. There's carrots, a lot of rice. Thin little bits of beef. I doubt there's onion and garlic in here. Looks like a little bit of red bell pepper. Tim Riley is here. The caramels did not make it, unfortunately. The coffee was the red packet taster's choice. That had gone south, so I pulled a type 2 out of my stash. Bamboo shoot. I just ate a piece of what I think is bamboo shoot. This tastes like a real teriyaki. Unlike the teriyaki beef sticks that you're getting in the newer U.S. rations, that one does not taste like teriyaki. But this, it's got that real teriyaki taste. Some of the bigger bits of beef are a bit chewy, but not too bad. Suni is here. Thanks for dropping in. This is an instant Lipton iced tea. They put 2 of them in. It's quite chunky, but this is what they were using back in 1995 in this limited run. I'm going to go ahead and take a taste of this tea. I probably put in a little bit more water. It only called for 6 ounces, but I didn't look on the back. I just went with the usual guessing of 8. But that's still good tea. It's not too sweet. A decent amount of lemon flavor. This is awesome. You might not be able to see it because this is a silver package. It says Oregon freeze dry, or I'll block the light. Oregon freeze dry became Mountain House, and sometimes you might still find Oregon freeze dry on either some of the packaging or maybe on their website or anything corporate. I would love to see this in an MCW. It's got that little hint of sweetness, but not too sweet. There is a look at one of the larger bits of the beef. It's more like a pulled beef, not overly processed. Thanks for dropping in, Waffles. So this here is the cookie bar chocolate covered. I broke it in half to get a look at the inside of it. And then this is the other bar that says chocolate. I'm guessing it's kind of like the precursor to the First Strike bar or some other kind of an energy bar, protein bar. That may have been one of the experimental items. I know very little about this. All I know is I saw it, I wanted it, so I got it. There might be a couple of peas in here. And I think I bit into either another bamboo shoot or a water chestnut. Yeah, this is just good stuff. Nice sized piece of water chestnut. That rehydrated perfectly. There might be a couple bits that are still a little on the hard side, but I'm not bothered by that. Red bell pepper, tiny bit of flavor, a little bit of color. At type 2 from the 2000s. That's a perfect coffee to go with this. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be finishing this off. I got this off of Emery Mountain a few months ago. They had the price cut on it, so that's why I went for it. I'm not sure if they have any more of these available. I don't know if there are other menus in this experimental run. Emery Info might have it, but I haven't looked. Even if I can't eat the rest of this, I'm still going to be a happy camper. I did have a very good lunch with my mom. My 3 sisters and I, my brother, my younger nephew and his wife, my niece and my great niece were there. My younger nephew could not make it. Yeah, there are a couple others who could have showed up, but they're actually feeling kind of sick, so. And then one other is out of town on a job in Nebraska. So he's coming back to Iowa next week. So he couldn't come. So my mom got a couple of phone calls from people while we were there. We had linguine and clam sauce for lunch. My oldest sister made it, and we had some garlic bread, we had salad, we had grapes and pineapple, and then we had some dessert bites, like little brownie bites, other pastry bites that were no bigger than this piece of this bar, and then some cheesecake bites that one of my sisters brought. And then for those that are not into the clam sauce, my oldest sister made a basic spaghetti sauce. Only 2 people ate that. The rest of us ate the clam sauce, so I brought some of that spaghetti sauce home. So I will enjoy that. I have a few pieces of the garlic bread, and I have one each of the different dessert bites. I brought those home. So if I cannot eat either one of these, I'll probably get those out and maybe nibble on a couple of those. A few brought gifts from my mom. So she opened up those. So it was nice being able to hang out with my mom for part of the afternoon. Now, the linguine and clam sauce is a very special meal for us because, for one thing, it was my parents' favorite meal, and it was the last meal that my dad was actually able to enjoy before his body started to shut down. You know, the cancer was really taking a hold, and he did not last too much long after that. So that was on their 47th wedding anniversary back in October, near the end of October of '08. And he died on Veterans Day in November, but it was just hard for him to really enjoy any food after that last meal, the linguine and clam sauce. But he wanted that. We made sure that he had it, and that made him very happy. Yeah, it reminds me of my dad. But every time we eat that as a family, it's still good memories because it's something that it's a treasure for us. Sometimes you just have to have something like that, a favorite recipe that is a family treasure. But my mom will be 81 this coming October. So she's still holding her own. Even if she can't do a whole lot, she can't walk very far. Her hearing aids are starting to fail, so she's going to be needing some new ones. But she's online communicating on Facebook with friends and relatives in other places. She lives in a very nice apartment. She has her own washer and dryer, so she doesn't have to try to lug laundry to a common laundry room like I do. But like I said, she's still holding her own. One of my sisters installed a water filter on her kitchen sink faucet. And so today she got a box with 3 replacement filters. And those filters will last her about a year. So she uses that water for drinking and cooking. And she puts it in her Keurig coffee maker when she wants to just have a cup of coffee. I keep looking at the chat to see if anything else has showed up, but nothing else after Suni's comment about this looking good. I haven't seen anything else come up, so I don't know if my chat is frozen or if you all are busy eating your own dinner and just watching. Yeah, it could be some people are not, that would have come here are not here. Elsie is hanging with her mom. And there are some others who would probably be in here, but they're otherwise occupied, and I'm okay with that. My oldest sister texted me last night to say that we would be having lunch at Mom's apartment, so, oh yeah, I can do my stream. Because I wasn't sure when we would be hanging out with our mom, but because we had lunch, I was able to get here with a couple hours to spare and then hop on here and share my dinner. Dang, what's it doing over there? Here it got up to, let's see, I'm gonna check. Got up to 83 here. It got up to 86 Fahrenheit here yesterday. I thought maybe yesterday I would be putting my seeds in the pots on my deck, but I said, no, I better wait to see if I'm going to get a call to go to the mosque to help them out with some more planting, but I never did get that, so okay. I'll plant my seeds tomorrow. I gotta write on some plant markers because I'm going to be planting some seeds that I didn't have the year before last year. I didn't plant last year because of the flooding problem I had in my apartment, and I had to have a bunch of my stuff just piled up on my deck while the cleanup crew was in here drying it out, and then had to have some repairs done to the walls and the ceiling. So by the time I got all my stuff back inside, it was already into June. So I thought, ah, screw it. And then the way they piled my stuff in here, it's just, there's no organization. They just put stuff down And then I had a leak coming in my bathroom ceiling a couple of different times, so that had to be addressed. The person above me got a warning about not overfilling the tub before you get in, because that person was literally filling the tub to the very top before getting in to take a bath. And then all that splashing around, probably with no shower curtain to contain it. Yeah, it was a mess. To Carlos, I've eaten about half of this already. This teriyaki beef is awesome. Oregon Freeze Dry, which became Mountain House, they nailed this one good. This needs to come back either in MCW or just put it on sale for the general public in their standard retail packaging, because this beef teriyaki is some good stuff. Yeah, DeCarlo stepped out for a bit. Had to do something. The only thing not original to this, to my dinner, is the coffee. The red packet Taster's Choice, that had already gone to crap. I was really hoping that it would be in good condition, but no. I had that. I had one good one. I think this is the fourth or fifth of the red packet Taster's Choice that I've come across. One was absolutely perfect. It tasted great. The rest of them, they got that funk to them. So that is in the trash. Apple Girly, welcome. This tray is actually Tupperware. It is from 1983. My high school class had a fundraiser, a Tupperware party fundraiser, to raise money to put towards our senior class trip in the spring of 1984. This was just one fundraiser that we had, and so I bought a few things from that myself. This tray was one of them, and then a fillable rolling pin that you fill with water to whatever weight you want, and a rolling mat for shaping the size circle that you want for pie crust or a pizza or whatever, it has circles on it to guide your dough rolling. And then I think a container that I picked up for my mom because she used to collect a lot of Tupperware. And when we used to go to bingo, they had Tupperware items as prizes. So every time I won, I picked a Tupperware item and it would go right to my mom. Because that's just what I did. But this ration came from 1995. It's freeze dried by the company that became Mountain House. Then it was known as Oregon Freeze Dry. And when you reconstitute these, it makes a crap ton of food. So not a whole lot of items here. The candy was called milk caramels, but they had already gone to crap. They are very oily feeling when I opened one. And the Taster's Choice instant coffee had gone to crap. This is the chocolate covered cookie bar. And then this is a chocolate protein bar, I believe. I'm guessing by the feel of it, the look of it. It smells like old cocoa. I have not taken a taste of either of these yet. The drink in my drinking jar is instant Lipton lemon tea. Not too sweet. It was a bit chunky, but it finally dissolved, so they put 2 of these in there. So I may use this other one at a later date. I just may prepare it ahead of time and just keep it in the fridge. But in case I could not drink that, I pulled out a Canadian fruit punch as a backup plan. If the creamer for the coffee would not have been good, I had a backup creamer. Then another thing I didn't use is the salt. That'll just get added to my stash. The spoon that was put in here is a standard MRE spoon, the brown one. They used to be a little shorter and white. In the early years of the brown bag meal ready to eat, so they just would throw those white spoons in from the old Meal Combat Individual, the boxed ration, while they were either producing these spoons or just transitioning over, using up old stock as they transitioned over to these. Again, I apologize to my Korean viewer. I cannot read Korean, but I do thank you for that. I hope you enjoy these reviews. I do have a Korean freeze-dried entree that I will make a meal around later this year. It's just something not as part of a complete ration, but I will put a meal together around that. And I hope you do join me for that one, because there is no English at all on the pouch. I'm looking forward to trying that. I do enjoy Korean food. We used to have a nice Korean restaurant here in Des Moines called the Korea House. I got the kimchi every time I went in there. I love trying different rations from around the world. It's a lot harder to get them with the different changes that have been made and importing from outside the US. But sometimes I come across something that is already here that I can buy, or someone sends it to me. So recently I received a Latvian ration. I have 2 more Canadian rations to add to the one that I still have. I have a British ration, and I have a 24-hour ration. I have a Polish single meal ration. So those are going to be coming up later this year. I have some certified halal US MREs. I have a first strike ration and a couple of civilian rations. I don't know if this particular one that I have is bibimbap. There's no English on there. But the bibimbap ones that I have seen other reviewers opened up, they look so dang good. But I hope one of these days I do get bibimbap. Of course, it would have to be without pork since I do not eat pork. Muslims and Jews do not eat pork, and I'm a Muslim. But other meats, oh yeah. And some Norwegian Arctic field rations, which also featured freeze-dried mains, you may get a reindeer stew. I have also had salmon in Norwegian Arctic field rations. And I think a Chilean one. I have had lamb in both American and Canadian rations. And in a French ration, I had ostrich. There's Sean Hack in the house. That's okay. As I like to say, life happens. John of Multi Magnum has been dealing with life stuff. So he will probably catch the replay later. Some people cannot watch live because they're in a different time zone and they would be in bed or maybe at work. But they want to see what I bring to the tray, so they watch later. And this was the glue side of that label So 1995, this is 2025, a 30-year-old ration. So this is an experimental long-range patrol. This is the side with the glue. It had a peelable seal like the tan bags, nothing at all printed. The date stamp is on here. Mother Earth Garden Club is here. Thanks for dropping in. But this teriyaki beef, it made a huge mound of food once it was reconstituted. But this stuff is so dang good. I just can't stop eating it. Because it makes a huge amount of food, I brought out the old Tupperware tray from 1983. Got a lemon instant tea in the old drinking jar. It was clumpy, but once it dissolved, it came out perfect. They put 2 of these teas in there. This is the front of the packet, and then this is the back side. Nice flavor to that tea, so I really like it. The Taster's Choice red packet, the flat pack, that coffee had already gone to crap. Those packets did not protect the coffee very well. I only had one of those red packets be good. So I have a coffee instant type 2 that I pulled out of my stash. But the creamer from this emery is good. It all mixed very well. The sugar is in here. I was really hoping that the Taster's Choice would be good, but nope. The caramels had started to melt. They got heat stressed, and when I opened the one end of that sleeve, I got an oily feeling. And they smelled funky. They got really dark, almost as dark as this. So nope, those are no good. They're trash. I have not tasted either of these. This is the cookie bar chocolate covered. This is some kind of, I'm guessing, a protein or an energy bar, probably the precursor to the First Strike or something similar that would be used in an emergency ration. That would be my guess. It may have been one of the experimental components that they were testing. But this beef teriyaki main, even if I can't eat these 2, I don't care because I'm happy with this. I have bits of carrot, red bell pepper, bamboo shoots, water chestnuts, maybe the odd pea. Really good teriyaki flavor. The rice reconstituted well. The beef is like a pulled beef, not overly processed, which makes me very happy. The RCW, I will probably, I'm, I'm thinking of maybe doing that probably sometime next month. I would like to get a, a few others done this month, but if there's a specific couple of Sundays, because I would take two streams with that one, because the RCW, Ration Cold Weather, is a 24-hour ration. So I will take a 2 week block with that one. So that's what I'm figuring for. Yeah, I haven't decided yet, but I would like to. Yeah, I would like to go ahead and get into that one. And it turns out two of the items that are in there, I have duplicates of from that box that Mike Crusher sent me at the request of my Iowa sister Aletha. Her channel is Kester's Corner. And he had an RCW cocoa powder and an RCW orange drink powder. And I checked those ration bags. Both of those are in there. So I have duplicates of those. So I suppose there could be a backup plan if either one of those that are in that ration are messed up. I could just go to those. But I'm hoping that those will be in very good shape. But I am so looking forward to getting into that. That was one of those rations was on my ration bucket list ever since I first saw one reviewed. And I'd seen them on Facebook. But now that I've had one, I did a good trade for it. I'm very happy about it. And I'm excited to get into it. The other time I had a couple of RCW components, Emily from across the pond had sent me a brownie. Unfortunately, that one did not make it. I really wanted to taste it, but I could only look at it. But the fruit soup, that was absolute awesomeness. I divided the powder into two little bowls. Half of it I mixed with cold water, half with hot. You could do that either way, but I think the flavor comes out more when you mix it with the hot water. But either way, that fruit soup was, it was so delicious. I wanted more. I think the only other time I had a fruit soup was from a Norwegian Arctic field ration. But the RCW one, oh boy, was that a goodie. Yeah, I don't know how the heck he got a hold of those, but he sure hit pay dirt when he did. And it's so nice of him to make it possible to share with others. And I sent him the 3 pork MREs from my case B, 2024 case B that Waffle sent me. And that's a pepperoni pizza, the maple flavored pork sausage patty, and then the Italian sausage. And he said those were his favorites. I don't know about the pizza, but he said the pork patty, maple flavored pork patty, and Italian sausage are some of his favorite menus. So he was excited to get those. And then I threw in some Iowa made products. I sent him a twin bang, the original cherry flavored twin bang. I sent him a Big Daddy's mild barbecue sauce. And I sent him some Amana beef jerky. I told him, you're getting some Iowa products, but not which ones, because I wasn't sure what I would be able to find. I knew I could find 2, but seeing that Amana beef jerky, oh yeah, that's going in a box. So he ripped into that beef jerky that night, and I think he ate the twin bang at night also. And I think then I think last Saturday or Sunday he barbecued with the Big Daddy sauce. I have never heard of recipes, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people who will look at the ingredients list, if there is one, and try to duplicate it. Because back then, not all of the pouches and packets had the ingredients. This one does. So this Oregon freeze dry, you can't, I mean, because it's a silver pack, it's hard to read it, but it does have the ingredients on there. But for instance, let's see. The back side of the cookie bar packet only has a date code. That's it, no ingredients. It just says that it was made by Sterling Foods and where they're located in San Antonio. And all the thin silver wrapper for this had like a coat on it, and then it just said chocolate. But I think now it's time to actually get a little risky on this cookie bar. Now that it's been out of the wrapper a bit, it doesn't smell quite so much like old paper. I'm getting a little bit of the cookie smell, but I'm going to taste just the chocolate coating. But that tastes very waxy. I'm not getting much of a chocolate flavor. I'm not getting the numbness that you might expect with something rancid. But I'll go in for a little bit of the cookie. This chocolate coating, the waxy, it tastes like wax. That kind of covers up. It overpowers the cocoa and the cookie flavor. Of course, I didn't take a really big bite of it. But I'm still not getting that numbness in my mouth that you would get when you bite into something rancid. Yeah, I got a little bit more of the cookie that time. It definitely tastes old. It tastes sweet, but that old flavor is a bit much. So I'm gonna pass on the rest of that. I had a drink of my tea. This might have, I don't know if it has nuts in it. It might have something else. I don't see anything black like you might find with a rancid nut. Now that tastes weird. It tastes like paper. I just took very, very thin nibble off the edge right there, but it just tastes like paper. I'm not getting much of a cocoa or chocolate scent off of it. I took another little nibble right there. Yeah, it tastes like paper. Oh, that does sound good. But these fruit soups in the rations, they don't have any kind of cream. They probably use pectin as a thickener, but no cream. And the fruit is pureed. Probably like once you reconstitute it, depending on how much water you add, it'll be somewhat like the berries jam of a Chilean ration, minus the solid bits of fruit. Yeah, these are definitely past their prime, unfortunately. I'm not getting a rancid taste or feel from either of these, but they are definitely no longer flavorful. They don't have the flavor that a fresh one would have. It makes me wonder how this tasted when it was fresh back in '95. It does make me curious. I'm sure back in the day, these cookie bars, when they were fresh, they were very good and very popular. I have had some cocoa powder from a C ration or MCI that tasted better than some from the 90s or early 2000s. Same with the crackers from that same can. They were absolutely perfect. And I got a can of bread that would have been issued separate from, as a supplement to that ration. Unfortunately, that bread was not edible, but it was still cool to look at it. But I have those desserts that I brought home from lunch with my mother. As I said earlier, we had a family favorite meal, linguine and clam sauce. My oldest sister made that, and then she made a regular pasta sauce, spaghetti sauce with ground beef for anyone that wasn't into the clams. But I brought some of that pasta sauce home, and I got plenty of pasta. I can cook that up and then put that sauce on it, and I'll be a happy camper. And then we had a salad with a few different dressings. I went after the signature dressing made by Noah's Ark restaurant. You can go into that restaurant and buy a quart of that dressing. And so we had that. I haven't eaten in there a long time, but I got a chance to have some of that dressing tonight, and I love it. And then we had just some fruit, pineapple chunks and grapes. And then we had assorted dessert bites, a few different flavors, some cheesecakes. So I got one of each and brought those home. We had garlic bread, so I brought a few pieces of that home. So I'll probably nip a couple of those dessert bites later on after I close the stream out. But the linguine clam sauce is one of those special meals that it brings back memories for us, good and sad, because it was the last meal that my dad enjoyed when they celebrated their 47th wedding anniversary not too long before he died from cancer. So he ate a good amount of that, and then the next day is when his decline really started, and he just could not eat much. I guess he just wanted to hold on for that last little bit of time. And I gotten them. I had some flowers that I had dyed blue, some white roses that I had dyed blue. I had those sent over by the florist. You know, this sapphire blue is what they came out to be like, and that happened to be the right color because that was my dad's favorite color. And then after he died, that became my mom's color. But, you know, we were happy to be able to give my dad his favorite meal one last time before he died on Veterans Day in 2008. So that linguine and clam sauce meal just has that special meaning for us. You know, I call it a family treasure because it holds so many memories for us. Yeah, you know, good memories. You know, I think about my dad, the good times that we had when he was with us. So we will always have that on special occasions. It may be a different time in the year, but just once in a while, we just have to have it. So we had a good time hanging out at my mom's place. Two people who were going to come were sick. One is fighting cancer himself. And then another one was in Nebraska doing a job. And he should be back in Iowa sometime next week. Where the company he has been working for may want to have him stay here in Des Moines or in the Des Moines area as opposed to traveling from place to place, because the boss really likes the quality of work that he does for a commercial electrical contractor. And my mom got a couple of phone calls from people while we were there. A few of us had gifts and cards for her, so it was fun watching her open those up. A few years ago, I discovered that my mom had been doing something that I had been doing every night for a few years myself, and that is we eat a tablespoon or so of honey every night before going to bed. And so the last few years when we've been going to the lake, I get a small bottle of honey, and then we share it between us. So I gave her a big bottle of Iowa honey from not too far from here. And then I bought a bottle of it for myself. It's raw, unfiltered honey. So although I have been buying the raw, unfiltered honey to put in my longer term storage, I've been just using the filtered honey. You know, it's less expensive, but you know, hey, this is for my mom. It's worth it. She's worth it. So, you know, I should switch to the raw unfiltered honey and start using that. So once I finish off the bottle that I'm currently using, I will get into that same honey that I gave my mom. Like I said, I got one for me and one for her. I showed them in my recent shopping haul video. So that's what I'll be doing once I finish off the bottle I'm currently using. Yeah, I also have a couple of bottles of honey that came from a guy who used to have bees in his backyard, but his wife got stung one day by one bee and it sent her to the ER. So he sold his bees and all his supplies to another beekeeper. So now he just has the chickens. But I'm holding on to those two little bottles of honey that I got from him. I traded egg cartons and a pair of vintage 1970s era handheld brick CB radios because he likes to tinker on old electronics. I thought, oh, he might be interested in these. So I said, can I trade these to you for like some of your honey? So yeah, we did that trade a few years ago. So this tinkering keeps his mind sharp, especially since he did have a pretty nasty stroke a few years ago. But he's got an old Jeep that he's been tinkering on. He used to be a coder. He wrote code for the Air Force and then for a company after he got out of the military. Yeah, he used to write the older style code. And he can still remember a lot of that type of code that he wrote. It just not used anymore, but he likes to keep his mind sharp with tinkering on old things. So but yeah, those two bottles of his honey, I want to hold on to those for a little while before I get into them. I have other bottles of Iowa honey that I'll get into. But yeah, I've been telling people about honey for all kinds of things. You can use it as a skin treatment for a minor wound. because it inhibits bacterial growth. You can put it in with medicinal tea. If you're making a tincture for a kid, you can put a little bit of it in there to make the tincture taste a little more palatable to the kid. Of course, you don't want to give honey to a baby. Because their gut flora is still developing. But yeah, this guy he made a lot of mead. Of course, I never got any of that from him because I don't drink alcohol. But he would put different fruit juices or other flavorings into the meads that he was making. He was experimenting, trying different recipes. And then he usually bartered. He would take something in trade for a bottle of his mead or his honey, or if he had excess of eggs from his chickens, and he would take a trade for a carton of eggs. But yeah, his wife is from Singapore, but she's pure Chinese. Her family moved to Singapore a few generations ago, but she speaks Mandarin. And then they adopted a Chinese girl from China who also speaks Mandarin, so they speak Chinese to each other. And then their adopted daughter, she works for a construction company. She mainly does the cement work, but she'll do other jobs like framing, things like that. But mostly she does cement work. Now, once in a while I'll run into him, not very often. And of course, Tack of AOK Urban Homestead and her wife, Brenda, they now have chickens. They've turned more of their backyard into their garden. Tack is, I believe, Laotian. So she came here as a child, but she keeps the language. So she still speaks fluent Lao. And I think maybe Vietnamese. She might speak that as well. But last year she did an egg roll and lo mein fundraiser to raise money for a diabetes charity that she supported. And so I got some of her lo mein and some of her egg rolls. She gets a group together to help her make all that, because when you're making 2,000 plus or maybe 2,500 plus egg rolls, that's a lot of work. And that's just egg rolls, that's not the lo mein. But all the money that she got from that went to a diabetes charity, since she's diabetic. herself, but she hikes, she camps, she fishes. She's into foraging. Now she hunts. I've had some of the deer meat, deer jerky. I've had some of her deer jerky. Yeah, I've had Hmong and Lao food before at international food events. And then, several years ago, TAC had a giveaway on her channel, which was called ALK Foraging and Adventures at the time before she changed it. The prizes were a couple of jars of her homemade kimchi. Awesome stuff. And an Iowa foraging book. And so, because I'm right here in the same city, she just brought them over. And then I got, she gave me one of her wife's spoons. She carves cedar. I have 2 of her spoons, which I take when I camp with them. I haven't done that for a long time because of, we both have had scheduling issues. Or they get sick or something like that. But I also have a spatula that Brenda made, and now she has a lathe so she can get a little more creative with her carving. So she does cedar, but she's also been getting into burls. Yeah, big weird lumps that form on a tree around an injured area or something like that. I'm not sure how burls come about, but yeah, people who are into carving, wood artists, they love to carve burls, put them on a lathe and turn them to create something. Yeah, so Brenda's been getting into that. But cedar is what she loves to work with the most. And of course, any shavings that result from that woodworking, they go into the chicken coop. Yeah, my younger nephew raises corn snakes and a few other snakes and some lizards. And then today, he said that the day before, yesterday, he got a new batch of quails. So he raises quails. He's got a couple of different cages that they're in inside the house in the basement. Next to their snake room, plus they have a couple of huge tortoises. And he's actually hoping that those tortoises will breed. But yeah, my nephew and his wife both work at the zoo, the Blank Park Zoo. But he breeds the snakes and the geckos, and sometimes he'll get different colorings on them. And if it's an unusual coloring, they sell for a lot more money than your common colors. But the corn snakes do not get all that big. Not like he has a few others, different kinds of snakes that are bigger than the corn snakes, but. And then the little geckos that he has, I've seen some pretty unusual colorings on them. And I think are really quite beautiful. And of course we got the fishy. We got the left coast fishy. And my younger nephew actually makes some pretty good money from the snakes and geckos. He got a license to breed them and to sell them. And he's very proud of that. You know, he wants to be as legit as he can. He takes really good care of his animals. The quails, they collect the eggs from the quails. And then of course they will send a few to the freezer camp. Yep, yeah, most people would, but there are some that you might want to have around if you have a rodent problem. Of course, the really small snakes will eat insects, maybe tiny frogs, but the ones that go after rodents, if you got a good sized property, you'd probably be happy to have a couple of those around, just to keep rodent populations down. They would probably eat the quail eggs if my nephew fed them to the snakes, but usually he gives them frozen mice. He actually breeds the mice and the crickets. He feeds the crickets to the geckos, and he might feed them to the young snakes if they're not big enough to handle a whole young mouse. But yeah, my nephew breeds the food animals. That way he knows where they came from. And then sometimes he will sell those. He freezes them, and he will sell those to some of the people who buy his snakes from him. So he's got a room for that. They are in a separate room from the snakes and the quails. So the snakes have their room, the lizards are there too, and then the quails have their room. So that's how he's got it set up. They also have a garden in their backyard, plus some pots that they plant in on their patio. And in fact, we were talking about gardening today at my mom's apartment. My oldest sister wants to get into herbs. She's been having issues with her tomatoes and bell peppers. That she has in pots. She may put them in the ground, but she wants to try growing some herbs. And because my deck faces north, herbs and some greens are pretty much what I can do. I can't do tomatoes or peppers because I don't get the sun that they need. I tried chilies, a hot chili pepper. Those seeds never germinated. They never came up. Same with some tomato seeds. They didn't come up. So I ended up putting other things in those containers. I even tried a moringa, but we had a nasty storm with a whole lot of rain, and that flooded the bucket that I had the moringa seedlings in. So they went kaput. So I just waited for that to dry completely out, and then I just started using that particular bucket as a compost bucket. My main bin, which is a tote that I found in the yard, it had been laying there for several days. No one was taking it. Okay, it's mine. I brought it up. Then I dumped the compost that was in that bucket that I tried to grow that moringa in. And now that my bin is full, I'm filling that bucket with additional compost. I have a small bucket underneath my sink that I will put my scraps in. Like I recently peeled an onion that I chopped up, took that to the mosque, and then I had some garlic that I had brought home that was given to the mosque. I peeled those. Those peels are now in that compost. I put my spent coffee grounds, and when I make tea, I empty out the tea bags in there. I got some tomato scrap, I got apple scrap, I got banana peels in there. You know, just stuff like that. Eggshells go in there. I rinse the eggshells off after I cracked eggs. And so I just let those dry. Then I just crush them up and put them into the compost. Well, it sounds like you got a good bunch of fur kids. I just have Pumpkin. I have birds visit my deck. They like to land on my plant shelves or on my deck rail. I think one of them has a nest because I found an egg that had fallen out, so I had no idea where that nest was. I don't know if it was in a tree or they built it on the deck above me and the egg just fell through. So that went into the compost. But occasionally I have had squirrels. I think they like to use my deck as their playroom. The birch and the sycamore trees in front of the building, when they're dropping their nuts, they collect them. Then we also have a walnut tree and some oak trees along the parking lot. So they will go after those. And then there's some trees in the park that also produce nuts. So they may bring them over across the street and they'll probably stash them. They'll eat them there or they'll stash them in the trees that are on the apartment property. I saw a male cardinal once. That was several years ago. I think I got a video up of him. Only time I had seen a cardinal on the deck. Of course, I hear birds. I don't always see them because my blind is closed, or I hear them. Yeah, while I'm still in my bedroom. Oh, yeah. That's one thing I do not have is a bird feeder. Yeah, my mom has hummingbird feeders that she hangs on her low deck. Yeah, she really likes hummingbirds. And owls, that's another bird that she likes, so I and some others have given her I've given her I think a couple of different hummingbird pins, and I gave her something like a little glass owl at one time. And my great niece drew a hummingbird on her the envelope that had their Mother's Day card in it. There is Howie Food Forest permaculture in the house. What is left here on the tray, other than the caramels, that they really went bad. They're oily, they stink. I put them in the trash. Now I use a ration bag as a trash bag, so The coffee from 1995 did not make it, so I had another coffee as a substitute. Two of these instant Lipton lemon teas. But this chocolate covered cookie bar, it just tastes like wax. The chocolate tastes like wax. It overpowers the cookie flavor, and there's not much of that. And then this bar here, it just tastes like old paper. There's no chocolate or cocoa flavor in it whatsoever. So they did not make it. But the teriyaki beef, yeah, I ate the whole thing. All of that. But this is an experimental ration. I don't know what the experimental parts were. I don't know if this bar was experimental. I don't know if the main itself was experimental or the packaging. This had the main in it, but it also had another clear bag inside of this. So this is double packed. So this bag is clean. Oregon Freeze Dry, which became Mountain House, they made this. Same shape and style of packaging as in the older Meal Cold Weathers before they switched to the retail Pro Pack pouch for their entrees. I think starting last year they switched over. But I substituted another coffee. And then I have some dessert bites that I brought home from my mom's apartment where we had lunch. I'll probably nibble on a couple of those later. But the entree itself, the teriyaki beef, the flavor was awesome. A good amount of beef. It was like a pulled beef, not a ground beef, so not overly processed. There are bits of carrots, bamboo shoots, water chestnuts, maybe the odd pea or three. Yeah, some bits of red bell pepper, some onion and garlic. It was not too salty, and it was not bland at all, so I did not have to add the salt. Not that I would anyway. So this salt packet will just get added to my stash. But the flavor was, it was so good that I just couldn't stop eating it. But this lemon tea is pretty darn good. It was a bit chunky, but other than that, once it fully dissolved, it tastes fine. It's a bit chunky, but you know what? I don't care. I'll probably mix this one up another time, keep it in the fridge. But yeah, we had, as I told the others earlier, we had linguine and clam sauce at my mom's apartment. My oldest sister made that. We had some garlic bread, we had salad, we had some grapes and pineapple chunks, and we had an assortment of dessert bites. And for anyone that wasn't into the clam sauce, my oldest sister had brought a crock pot full of spaghetti sauce. So only two went after that. The rest of us were eating the clam sauce on our pasta. So I brought home a container full of that spaghetti sauce. So I got pasta in my kitchen. I can boil up some of that, put that sauce on it, and I'm a happy camper. And then my sister had got some turkey bacon. But she didn't use the whole pack, so she had kept it in, the rest of it, unused part of it, in her freezer, so I have it. It's a brand called Godshall's. I have had that brand before. I've had their beef bacon before, but I had not had their turkey bacon. Usually I prefer Midamar, which is an Iowa-based company, but I will definitely try the Godshall's turkey bacon. I'll probably cook some of that up tomorrow, unless I choose to crack open some of those eggs so I can have more shells for composting. But we had a good Mother's Day. 3 people who would have come were out. One was out of state working on a job. He's supposed to come back to Des Moines sometime this week. Another one is sick. He's fighting cancer. It's already stage 4. And another one was sick with something else. So but my niece and my great niece are there. My 3 sisters and my brother. My younger nephew and his wife were there, so we still had a good group. We just enjoyed hanging out with Mom. She opened some presents and some cards. She had got a couple of phone calls. So we had a good time. We had a good time. My mom's Facebook feed was full of Mother's Day greetings. So it was a good day. The next thing we'll do as a family will be our annual trip to Lake Icaria. So we're not only booked for that, for this year, we're booked for next year. And so this year, we will book for 2027. Yeah, we're still booking 2 years out. Yeah, I know. I did my pot prep with those extra pots that I scored that were freebie finds. There's another abandoned bag, almost half full of potting soil, so there's no one is on the patio below me. That apartment has been empty for a while, so no one else claimed it, so I nipped it. So I amended that with compost before putting that into some of my containers. So my pots are ready. I need to get my plant markers out, write some plant names or on some, because I'm going to be planting seeds I had not planted before. So that means every time I water, I'm going to have to either keep going back and forth from my kitchen to the deck, fill my pitchers, or I'm just going to have to take several of them out all at once. Yeah, I don't have access to a hose. The one that we do have attached to the building is not all that long, and it wouldn't reach over to my deck anyway, so I have to get the water from my faucet. I wish I didn't have to, but it is what it is. But since I'm not doing anything else tomorrow, I'm going to plant my seeds tomorrow. I don't start in here because I don't have the space to do it. Plus, I have a very active cat. I'm afraid she would try to mess things up. Yeah, she's almost 7 years old. But she will still want to try to get into things. That is when she's not sleeping like a lazy cat. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and call this one good so I can get cleaned up, put things away. All the things that I do not use. Will get added to my stash. Well, this one came with 2 rear rolls instead of 1. The matches, the gum, oddly enough, I don't think there's a wet wipe in there. But anyway, I'm going to put things away, toss my trash. And I'm going to call this stream done. I hope you all enjoyed checking this out with me. I enjoyed opening up this little piece of history. And then I have another piece of history that I will be getting into later this summer, that Ration cold weather. So that is going to be an enjoyable one to look at. So I do want to thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. I hope all of you are able to connect with your mothers if they're still alive. And if you're a mother yourself, I hope you got doted on by your kids and others. But I do want to thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the flip side.